What's good, everybody? It's Big Game James here. You know what it is. It's that time, man. We back here in the building. I got my guy, Mr. George Carmi from the Washington Commanders. We did a show a little while back and we talked some good football stuff and some good things like that. But jump on in here, George, and let them know what you do, what you got going on, and then let's talk about this matchup, man.
What's good, James? I think you're having me. I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm George Carmi from Full Press Coverage. I write for fullpresscoverage.com about the Commanders. I have my own podcast, Full Press Commanders, on all audio platforms and YouTube, and I'm definitely happy to be here, bro. Thank you for having
me. Yes, sir. You know what it is. Hey, well, let's jump right into it, man. Your Commanders 1-2, my Cowboys 2-1. But let's jump right into it and let's talk about the Commanders side right quick. So, because I wanted to get the pulse of, what are the Commanders? How are you feeling right now? I know obviously you're 1-2, but kind of where is your thought pattern or where the team is at right now at this point?
It's tough, man. We're kind of all over the place. I think we kind of have a little bit of disheartened expectations. Basically, we came into the season expecting to start off 2-0. We played the Jaguars and the Lions the first 2 weeks of the season. We kind of thought that the NFL kind of was hooking us up and giving us a little bit of an advantage there. But, week one, we started off pretty well. We started off, 14 points in the first half. Carson Wentz was an efficient quarterback. We had a rough second half, but we ended up winning the game. We thought that we kind of break through and have a consistent offense all season long. Then we played the Lions, man, and we saw the Lions basically were very aggressive on their defensive line. It caused a lot of chaos up front. Basically kind of exposed some flaws in our offensive philosophies, and we lost that game. And then, we had a poor showing against the Eagles too. So, 1-2, we're looking to rebound this week and see how it goes.
Right. Now, in those two losses that you kind of had, you said your philosophy, you don't know if it was what's going on with that. Now, do you feel like it's philosophy, scheme, offensive line? What do you think is really the issue that's been going on the last two times you guys had those last two games?
I think it's a combination of everything, man, to be honest with you. Like at the end of last year, we had the 6th rated best pass blocking offensive line from Pro Football Focus. We let Brendan Sheriff walk this offseason. He cost $18 million. And, James, you and I talk offline all the time.
Right.
I'm not paying $18 million for a guard. It's way too much for a guard.
Right.
Way too much for a guard. So letting him go was probably the smart move. But I don't think we'll see. The story has to be told about whether that was a smart decision in the big picture. Because basically we are having offensive line issues. And in Washington, the talk is, our two guards, are they over the hill? We have Trey Turner and Andrew Norwell. They're both 31, former Panther retreads from the Ron Rivera regime. Or is it more scheme? Is it is Scott Turner basically not, utilizing Carson Wentz to his strengths? He's, throughout his career, he's been known to kind of hold the ball too long. Is it, should Scott Turner have more fast action plays and kind of distribute the ball to our receivers? Regardless, there isn't a good marriage right now. We gave up 6 sacks against the Eagles. 6 against the Lions and 9 against the Eagles. So, that's what kind of concerns me going into this week, having you guys having the best pass rushing defense in the league, and then our offense is kind of being suspect right now.
Now, dude, let me ask you this, because when I looked at the stats from Carson Wentz, we and you had talked about how you were a lot more optimistic this year because you guys finally have a quarterback. You guys a guy that can really legitimately push the ball downfield, a guy who can make plays, who can win games. He's been in this league, he's done it. Now, but we have seen the first 3 games, respectively. Carson Wentz, I think he's averaging like around 40 pass attempts a game. I don't think he's had under 40 pass attempts in a game. Coincidentally, you have Gibson, who is only averaging around 13 rushes a game. Do you like that theory or philosophy? Because right now you guys are only averaging 3.7 yards a carry on the rush. You're on at the bottom as far as rushing yards. Where do you feel like there needs to be more balance? Do you feel like the offensive scheme has said, well, we have Carson Wentz, so we're going to throw the ball now? How do you tell me about that?
I think there needs to be a better balance, right? And there's 2 perspectives to this question, right? There's my personal perspective, and then there's how I want to see with the Commanders. I think it's a passing league. I think you need to kind of pass to run. That's kind of my perspective. I like being in positive game script and throwing on first down and getting little chunk plays here or there. I think ultimately that's what Washington wants to be. The problem is we're still kind of figuring out our system. And right now, I think we might be leading the league, or we've been caught in a lot of down and distances on 3rd and 10, for instance, right? So last game against the Eagles, we got sacked 2 of the last 3 plays. We're constantly in 3rd and 10, and we're not getting that positive, game script in regard to a short down and distances on 2nd down. I think Washington, what they need to do is they need to settle down. Like if they do see that there's an effective pass rush coming that way, they should counteract it with a good run game. And even against the Eagles, right? Like I think what's his name? Antonio Gibson ended with 11 carries for 38 yards, something along those lines. But he lost 11 yards on one carry, and he was averaging about 4.8 yards per carry for the most part. So maybe that is a formula. Maybe Washington should counteract basically the pass rush with a good run game. But we'll talk about more scheme. But I think Washington has a skill players to actually compete. It's all about protecting Carson Wentz.
Yeah, and I was saying when I talked to my guy Joe Castro, right before you guys had your show, I was saying I felt like you guys could beat them. It could be an upset, but you guys had to be able to run the ball. I felt like y'all had to establish the run. I felt like Gibson had to have a 100-yard game. I felt like if he could really get going against that Eagles defense, I felt like y'all could have beat them. And I think that getting down early and getting those sacks on Carson Wentz early kind of maybe threw the kind of offense out of whack. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, are any guys out there on the offensive side that you say we need to get the ball more, or kind of standing out to you saying, hey, I'm kind of excited about this guy, even though it's only been a few games into the season? Tell me some people that maybe is feeling good about on the offensive side.
All right. So for one, I'm going to kind of like go to the future for 1 second, right? Then I'll come back to tomorrow's game. So
Okay.
Brian Robinson, right? I really am excited to have him return back to Washington. I don't know if you guys have heard about him in Dallas circles.
Running back.
He was our running back, 1,200-yard running back in Alabama, 14 touchdowns. He's a forward faller. He get 4 yards per carry. He's someone that we really could have used last week in the Eagles game. Unfortunately, he went to Southeast DC. He went to go get some food, got shot because he had a pretty, I'm not going to say anything. He got shot basically because he was in a nice car. He got carjacked, unfortunately, but he's recovering quickly. Should be back next week. So I'm excited about that, which is very interesting because these NFC East games are coming early. And it's like, Chase Young could potentially come back next week. Brian Robinson could potentially come back next week. So it's like the team that we're seeing now is not going to be the team we see in the second go around. So that's going to be intriguing. To answer your question, like straight up, I think I really like. I think Terry McLaurin, believe it or not, needs to start getting the ball more. If you guys are actually charting and look at those advanced stats over the last 2 games, he didn't touch the ball till the second half. He basically has kind of become an afterthought in the passing game. And I don't know if that's scheme. I don't know if it's the number 1 cornerbacks on them. I don't know if it's the pressures. I think it's likely the pressures. But Terry McLaurin should be scripted within the first 5-10 plays of the game, like manufactured touches for him to get the ball because he's a fantastic talent. And Washington's strength this year is the wide receivers. And like I tweeted the other day, if you can protect Carson Wentz, I think we have the skill players to create yards after catch. Curtis Samuel's having a great year this year. I think that's going to be interesting for you guys to see because it's been a little while since he's been on the field because of last year. Jahan Dotson is a rookie. I don't know if you guys are following him yet. He had 2 touchdowns in the first 2 games. And, he basically he had 3 touchdowns in the first 2 games. And he basically he has upside. He's a very shifty wide receiver, so I'm confident in him too.
Yeah, now I'm gonna go ahead and fill you with your receivers, man. I mean, you just mentioned those 3 guys, but Dotson's turning up as a rookie, and just the person I had did a little quick breakdown, video breakdown, and Curtis Samuel to me is a X factor in the fact of 100%. You can do a variety of things with him, and I want the Cowboys to make sure they keep an eye on him because he is the guy he's the jet sweep guy, he is the bubble screen guy, he is a gadget guy. You can not only use him in the passing game, you can use him in the short passing game, running game. You can do a variety of things with him. And like you said, Dallas didn't get to see him. And we were kind of excited that he was out the game last time because he's a guy that he can do a lot of things.
100%.
So I was saying that the same thing. Keep your eye on Samuel because we didn't see him in that last matchup, and he might present us some problems. Kind of like the situation when we played the Giants on Monday night. They didn't have Kadarius Toney. He gave us fits when we played them, and I was happy he was out that game because he can do not just passing, that short passing game that could kind of break the game open. So, that's something that I told my Cowboys defense and fans, keep an eye on Samuel because he could be a factor in there. Now, Gibson had a couple good games against Dallas in 2020, and we kind of bottled them up in 2021. Do you foresee them kind of getting the ball with him in our game against us? Do you feel like they're going to try to kind of force feed him in that game against us?
I do. I think the narrative in DC, there's a lot of talk that Scott Turner kind of lost the balance, as you alluded to. Like they've been passing it too much. I think Washington can't get behind, because I think that's gonna play into Dallas's hands, right? So if Washington gets behind, you guys are gonna start pass rushing more. Micah Parsons is gonna create some chaos. Carson Wentz is gonna fumble. It's gonna cause a whole lot of problems. So I do think they want to get the ball involved with Antonio Gibson. And last year we went on a 4-game winning streak because we focused on the power run. We focused on Antonio Gibson basically just kind of following his lead, and people kind of look at him and basically think he's like more of a kind of a scat back, but he's a big guy. He's 6'1", 230 pounds with a 4.3 40. Like he is kind of a power back as well. We just got to manufacture touches for him too. So as you mentioned, I think, giving Antonio Gibson more touches in the run game is going to balance the offense a little bit. It might alleviate some pressure from Carson Wentz. Washington needs to utilize a short passing game as well, because we have yard after catch wide receivers, so get them. And then finally, man, you're right, Curtis Samuel, man, he was people forget that he was recruited at Ohio State to play running back. Like he can play running back in this league. So basically, they utilize a diamond formation where they kind of have him in the backfield and he can, anything. He can run, flat, post routes, fades, whatever, or just dive up the middle. He has the ability to do all of that. So it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, so like I said, Cowboys, keep your eye on Samuel because I think he's going to be a key to the game. Now, we was talking on the offensive side. Let's jump to that defensive side because the defense hasn't been terrible, but it's kind of been giving up a lot of yards on the ground, which is I'm kind of surprised about that considering the front that you have. Talk to me a little bit about the defense and how do you feel about your defense right now?
So the defense has been the biggest question mark for about a year and a half now. So if looking on paper, and if you're looking at more of like a national level, like everyone would automatically assume that Washington's defenses would carry as a team. And I think, honestly, the offense is going to carry the team this year as long as you can figure out our offensive line issues. On our defensive side, we give up explosive plays. And what happened was against the Lions, we just gave up these, there was a lot of confusion. Basically, Amon-Ra St. Brown basically had his famous quote that kind of went around DC circles talking about how the Washington the cornerbacks, they have a tough time in bunch formation. Like essentially, wide receivers will kind of stack up. Someone will come underneath. Our slot receiver will basically let him loose. Sorry, our slot corner will let him loose, and they would have explosive plays. Christian Kirk thrived against us. Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then finally Devontae Smith last week. Against the Eagles, we played a little bit better. I think we played more man coverage. We kind of held it down, but we still gave up some big plays. So the people that you guys should be looking out for in Dallas is Daron Payne. He basically he's crushing it right now. Like Jonathan Allen would always do his thing, but Daron Payne's in a contract year. He came in angry during training camp. He just what's up, Kyle? He basically just constantly is being disruptive, and basically I think he has 3 sacks already as well. So that's pretty interesting. And then kind of a fun one if you want to look at a big picture. Jamin Davis, number 52.
I was just about to say him.
He's our first round pick that we basically got last year. We wanted a linebacker. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was definitely on my list. Micah Parsons, if he fell down to us, I would have loved to have him. But
right.
Jamin Davis was the guy, and he's a height, weight, speed guy. He has 3 sacks already this year. The sacks are more like containment, like sacks. He hasn't been beyond the backfield, but he's a guy that's like he's starting to finally get it. And it'd be kind of fun if he gets it again during this Cowboys game. Like he would definitely be etched in Washington lore if he has a pretty big play against the Cowboys this week. It'd be fun.
Now, I had seen a clip with I don't know if it was Jack Del Rio or was it Ron Rivera, but I don't know. They were kind of creative,
getting on him.
Yeah, kind of getting on him. Like you got to do better, you got to see things better, got to react quicker. Do you think that after that happened, and he gave a very professional answer? He said, I do got to do this. Do you think that kind of maybe sparked his play a little bit, or how do you feel about that?
I did. I really honestly do. Like, so basically, I was like, I thought, to be honest with you, I thought Jamin Davis was a little bit overdrafted. I kind of had him as a second round selection when basically, I do a lot of draft work. I thought it was gonna be a second round pick the year he came out, but he definitely has the height, weight, and speed to basically be an elite linebacker. Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio are former linebackers themselves. I guess they kind of overestimated the fact that they could coach him up fast enough. They put him at Mike last year to kind of like, see the defense from the inside out. And then eventually that didn't really work. So they kind of moved him to the weak side linebacking position. Jack Del Rio kind of burned him in the post-game conference, saying, Jamin Davis actually physically named him in the conference. And he was like, he played a bad game. He kind of put it out that way. And it was like, it's kind of rough, but at the same time, it's like, like people like I felt bad for Davis and everyone else. Like, dude, like he's a professional athlete, first round pick. It's 18 games in. Let him see what's going on, So kind of pushed him. And now he's starting to play better. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe people get motivated in different ways. So I definitely want to see him traject up. I want to see how he plays this week.
Yeah, for sure. Like when I seen that, I was like, "Whoa, okay, that's what's up." Okay, we ain't pulling no punches over here. Now,
Not at all.
we talked about before the season. You said, the secondary, and we saw what the secondary last year wasn't what you probably wanted from the Washington side. How do you kind of feel about your secondary right now? Shout out to my guy Derek Forrest Jr. representing Columbus, Ohio. Man, he had
Hell
a big
yeah,
game, had a really big game. I got to give him a big shout out to what he's doing. But kind of how do you tell me about your secondary and how you feel about your secondary right now?
So our secondary is starting to come together a little bit. I think the issue is that our cornerbacks kind of need to find their niche. We basically have three corners: Kendall Fuller, we have William Jackson the third, we also have Benjamin St-Juste. Essentially, last week, William Jackson, who was our big acquisition a couple of years ago, he's having a tough transition over here in Washington, and he basically had some back issues last week and he didn't actually play in the game. Benjamin St-Juste moved from the slot to the outside, covered AJ Brown, did a pretty good job last week and kind of shut them down a little bit. So
Mm-hmm.
it was more of the Devontae Smith show last week. So I think our cornerbacks are solid. It's going to be really interesting who follows CeeDee Lamb this week. I've been watching you guys too. Noah Brown's a pretty out of nowhere kind of wide receiver, at least from my perspective, playing
Mm-hmm.
pretty damn well. So our cornerbacks are solid. I think if they play man coverage and our defense generates pressure, we'll give you guys a little bit of trouble for Cooper Rush. But the big guys, the people that are standing out in the secondary is your boy Derek Forrest and my guy Cameron Curl, number 31.
Yeah.
Keep track of him. He's a good player.
Yeah, but definitely basically started following him a little bit more once you mentioned him because you were talking about what kind of a player he was, and I can agree with your assessment of what you were talking. Now, before we get into our deep matchup when we play this Sunday, I want to ask you about two players in particular on the offensive side, and where do you think they're going to be from here? Now, number one, your starting center is out. Was it Schweitzer?
Yeah, Schweitzer.
Okay. Now you have Nick Martin in. Now he started with the Houston Texans. He didn't look like he had a bad career over there. What do you feel about Nick Martin's being your starter?
I mean, that's what we got, right? So we got to roll with it. I think he's going to be an improvement over Wes Schweitzer. Like Chase Roullier he's basically a guy that we drafted. He got a second contract here in DC. He's more of a cerebral player, not the most athletic center in the world, but the way Washington calls their offensive line protection calls is through the center, right? So that's why Chase Roullier was so vital, because he's the one that kind of dictated everything for us. When he went down, he basically had a pretty bad ankle injury. I think he's gone for the rest of the year. Schweitzer came in, and dude, I was at the game live. It was awful. Like I want to
Right.
Schweitzer's like a good guard, but like he it's like third game ever playing center, and like his shotgun snaps are ducks. They were delayed. They were slow. The Eagles are reading the snap counts. It was a bad combination, and I think that led to a lot of the 9 sacks for next week. So hopefully Nick Martin provides some stability. I wouldn't expect it to be high-end stability because, you guys have a good pass rush, and this guy's the first time ever playing for us. But at the same time, we saw kind of, to me personally, I thought we kind of saw kind of rock bottom last week. So hopefully this guy will provide some sort of upgrade, I think.
Well, saying that, I wish Schweitzer was still playing where he was playing like that in that last game. I was like, daggone, I wanted him to play because
exactly.
we really could really attack that middle. But let me ask you about your two offensive tackles, your right tackle or your left tackle, Samuel Cosmi from University of Texas. This is his second year. And then you have Leno. Is it Leno Jr.?
Charles Leno. Yep,
okay.
From the Bears.
Now they've been kind of, Cosmi kind of lost his way last week with the pressures and Leno Jr. How do you feel about those two guys kind of going forward with the prospects?
So Charles Leno is more of a solid tackle. He's no Trent Williams. You're not going to mistake him for Trent Williams or Tyron Smith or anything like that, right? But he's the kind of guy that's going to protect you on the backside. He's going to be a steady presence. He was a nice find. We got him. The Chicago Bears cut him late in the offseason, I think 2 years ago, and basically Washington picked him up, and he's been our starting left tackle for a little while now. He has generated pressure. I think our offensive line is basically I love all the comments in the chat I'm seeing. What's up, Roger? What's up, Scott? I see you guys over there. Hopefully it's not rock bottom, Roger. But anyway, Charles Leno, he's given up some uncharacteristic pressures this year, but I think it's just kind of a lackluster group that we have on the offensive line. And I think Carson Wentz kind of holds on to the ball a little bit too long. So I think it's a bad marriage at this moment. Hopefully we can kind of figure it out. Cosby, he is an athletic guy. He crushed the RAS score, the relative athletic score, with like a high 9 relative to other tackles. He is a pretty solid right tackle, but he just struggled with Brendan Graham last week with the Philadelphia Eagles because Brendan Graham's a different kind of animal, right? He's a pretty good athlete. We have more long, lengthy, tall guys like Montez Sweat and Chase Young. So I think we're practicing against them. And then you see this like bowling ball of Brendan Graham kind of threw him off a little bit. Like, where's his power coming from? Kind of got the best of him. So we'll see how he does. Hopefully hopefully Washington will counteract it. And I don't know. I'm sure we're going to talk strategy in a little bit, so we'll go there in a little bit.
Yeah, well, let's kind of get into it right now because we talked about your guys. Now I want you to kind of give me your thoughts. Kind of how do you feel about how would you attack these Cowboys if we're talking on the philosophy of this game coming in? Dallas Cowboys, we have Cooper Rush. Okay, we are a lot more ball control. Our last couple of games, we did it the way I wanted them to do it. We played the way I wanted them to play with Dak Prescott. 27 rushes, 31 passes in the game against Cincinnati Bengals. 30 rushes, 31 passes against the New York Giants. Formula. Offense didn't look great in those two games, so let's not be known. We barely had we scored 20 points, we scored 23 points respectively, but you saw there was a lot of missed opportunities and there was a lot of punts, things of that nature. So what are your kind of thoughts when you're coming to attack the Dallas Cowboy offense, knowing that we have the two backs, Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard got 100 yards last game, Ezekiel Elliott 75. Like we said, Noah Brown is kind of stepping up in the number 2. We will be getting Michael Gallup back this game. I don't know how much we're really going to play him. I'm a little cautious about him coming in and playing right now. But what are your kind of thoughts on attacking the Dallas Cowboy offense, knowing what you see right now in Cooper Rush?
Yeah, I'll definitely jump in on that. Let me do one thing though, James. Our boy Scott Hartley right there, he's dialing in from the UK, so I want to give him a shout out. That's good props for him for sure. Thank you for coming, Scott. I appreciate that. Was that Raul? In regard to the Cowboys, I think the best way, my philosophy would be to shut down the run. I think if we can kind of make you guys one-dimensional, I think that will put the pressure on a Cooper Rush to be forced to beat Washington's defense. And we'll see if that's going to happen. Our secondary probably is the weaker part of our defense. So I don't know if it's prudent to force Cooper Rush to throw against us, but if Tony Pollard's doing those explosive plays where he's hitting these 40, 50 yards runs, if Ezekiel Elliott's converting on third down, those third and short, runs in regard to that, it's going to constantly give you guys a time of possession and give you guys more ways to figure it out. I'm a big football guy in regard to sometimes you need just plays to kind of figure it out. So basically if you guys are constantly 10, 12, 13 play drives, you guys are going to find the holes in our defense and he's going to figure out what we're playing and beat that, right? So I don't want to go 3 and out and give you guys the ball back. So definitely take away the run game from you guys. Let CeeDee Lamb beat us. He might get his 5-6 catches and do what he has to do. I don't CeeDee Lamb's a solid player. He's a solid player, but I just don't know if I view him as that Jamar Chase-esque kind of player, right? I'll let him go off a little bit. Let him get his 6 catches, 80 yards, and maybe a touchdown. But I don't see him going 160 or something like that. So we'll see how it goes. So just shut down the run game, and we'll see. But if you don't mind, I want to learn from you, bro. So so you're saying the run game is kind of the balance, right? Cooper Rush, how you feeling about him? Do you feel do you think he's susceptible if you blitz him? And do you think he can dissect a defense? And what do you think about him so far?
I think he's doing what he's supposed to do as a backup. But I think what they're doing right now, Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore have put him in the right situations. It's a lot of mass protection. It's a lot of 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets over balanced line. Well, like I said, they added Jason Peters in at the left guard spot. He was in about 14 snaps, and he really helped.
Did really well.
Yes,
you guys sort of running behind him over and over. I saw the game. It was a great strategy. It was good.
And I like that because there's options. Connor McGovern should be coming back as well. They might do the jumbo package because you don't really use a fullback. So they might use that jumbo package again where Connor McGovern might play a little bit of fullback where you got Jason Peters at the left guard just to keep a good jumbo package. And in reference to Cooper Rush, I feel like they're not giving him a lot of looks. They're making it basic for him. They're making the game basic. They're making a few reads, make this play and go. And I think, having Noah Brown step up has really helped us. Because he wasn't he's been in the program 6 years. I've already said Noah Brown wasn't going to do anything. Okay, I had to eat crow on Noah Brown for real.
Yeah.
They're like, "Mate, eat crow on Noah Brown." Okay, I said, okay. It was only a couple games. There's still 3 games in, but he has basically showed his catching ability. The passes from Cooper Rush have not been perfect to him, so he's shown a lot of adjustment in his catch radius, and I really like that. And like I said, they're making Cooper Rush not win the game. They're making it to where keep him in good down and distance, continue to run that ball. That's his best friend, and it should be the same way with Dak Prescott. But I think that's why you're seeing the best of Cooper Rush, because the run game is working. If you have to put the ball and put that on the hands and the shoulders of Cooper Rush, I feel like that's going to be a recipe for a disaster. Because if you looked at the game, his first game when he started against the Bengals, not his first game, but his last game against the Bengals, he had 2 plays where they could have been interceptions taken to the house. They just basically dropped the ball. So it's not like he's been perfect, but I do like the way they've been doing, like I said, balanced run pass. Dallas usually calling card when they get over 20 to 25 rushes, they usually win the game. And that's what they need to have, keep on going forward, and that's how they need to keep on with Cooper Rush.
And then Washington, we need to get a turnover, man. A stat to kind of throw your way. We have 1 interception on the season. It was a Derek Forrest interception during week 1, and that was basically a desperation throw by Trevor Lawrence. Like, I don't know what's going on with Washington. I don't know if it's the lack of playmakers. I don't know if it's a scheme where we're kind of like, having zone, let them catch in front of us and tackle immediately. But we definitely got to create some turnovers. So maybe this is the game where it happens. We'll see how it goes.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you foresee on your side, on the defensive side, going against the Cowboys, do you foresee you guys playing a lot of man coverage? Do you guys see a lot of zone against us? What do you think you'll really do?
So I think Washington is known to be a zone coverage team. I think that's what we want to go. That's what we have been doing. But surprisingly, against the Eagles, we started to go man up. We kind of let that
y'all
ride.
manned them up.
Yeah,
really
I think we did a pretty good job for the most part. Like if you look at the plays last week, I'm sure you watched it. You're NFC East guy. Devontae Smith, like he earned those plays. It wasn't like he was running free. It was like a jump ball. He happened to catch it over Kendall Fuller. It was a great play on his side. Like I was impressed. I was like, you know what? Hat tip to him. He earned that play. So I got to give it to him on that. But like, I think you tell me. I don't see Dallas's wide receivers as particularly explosive, except for CeeDee Lamb, right? So I think like there might be the best strategy, just kind of snatch him up and man on man, see how it goes. And William Jackson's a burner. He's kind of a fast corner. Put him on CeeDee Lamb, but realistically, I think Kendall Fuller is our best corner, so he might cover CeeDee Lamb and kind of see how that goes. We'll see.
Well, see, this is what I looked at, and this is from Pro Football Focus. They have a stat where teams are playing each week a man-to-man coverage and which teams see the man-to-man coverage. Yeah. And I did see that you guys play 44% of the time in week 3 man coverage against the Eagles, okay? And I've noticed that when the Dallas Cowboys, since they've had Cooper Rush, teams have manned us up more. They played more zone when they've played Dak Prescott, but when it's been Cooper Rush, 2 teams have played. The Bengals played more man coverage against us, and the Giants played almost 50% man against us. So what that's telling me is that they kind of maybe don't respect our guys. They feel like we can attack Cooper Rush, so we're going to really send kind of heat against you guys, send pressure, and see if you guys can beat us in the one-on-one matchups. I would think maybe you guys would probably do the same because, as I said before, our thoughts on CeeDee Lamb probably are the same right now. I think he's a very good receiver. I don't know if he's like you said, the Jamar Chase, the Justin Jeffersons, those type of guys, because he had a big drop, which could have been a touchdown. He redeemed himself in the fourth quarter, had a big fourth quarter drive, but it's the lapse of concentration, maybe the immaturity, and I don't know which week we're going to get with CeeDee Lamb. And plus, it just seems like he's good, but you don't see those explosive plays with CeeDee. He makes catches, but you don't see explosive plays. And I think that's what we're all kind of lacking with CeeDee. We're waiting for him to just be explosive, really get the ball, take it, and make plays afterwards. And we're not really seeing that from Dallas Cowboy land. So I think that's where we're kind of at with CeeDee. We need to kind of see more and make it happen. So that's kind of our perspective from it. But we're feeling really good about our offensive line. It's only given up 5 sacks, I think, given up for 8th in the league. We love what our young rookie and Tyler Smith has had, and that's the reason why they pushed Jason Peters inside, because Tyler Smith has really done so well at the left tackle. I think he's given up 3 or 4 pressures maybe 1 sack, but he's done pretty well on the offensive line. I think our offensive line has held up a lot better than a lot of the Dallas Cowboys would have
So I
thought.
remember talking to you guys in the off. You and Cole Cowboys talking to you guys during the offseason. Like, what's your biggest concern?
Yeah.
You guys are telling me offensive line in the offseason. That's kind of interesting to hear that. Okay.
Yeah. So we're kind of feeling good on that side. But obviously, our calling card right now is the defense. I mean, we're only giving up opponents are averaging only 17 points a game against us. That's good for 8th in the league. We're leading the league in sacks with 13. And obviously, we have Micah Parsons, but it hasn't just been Micah Parsons. Dorrance Armstrong Jr. has stepped up. We re-signed him in the offseason. He has 3 sacks. You have the Dante Fowlers. Quentin Bohanna has played very well in the middle. That's the guy who I said, George, if we're talking about our run game, because Barkley had the big run, the touchdown run, but we pretty much bottled him up. And Daniel Jones was an athletic quarterback. We probably would have had more sacks than that.
100%.
We probably would have had a 10-sack game.
Off, dude. Yeah.
Man,
there's a crazy stat. I don't know if you saw it, but basically you guys pressured Daniel Jones on 46% of his dropbacks. You sacked him 5 times. And I'm an NFC East guy. I was watching that game. I was like, that does not look good for Washington next year because Daniel Jones was hustling, dude. You guys were coming after him hard.
Oh, every play he was spreading out that pocket.
He saved so many sacks. Carson Wentz can't do that. That's why I'm a little bit concerned. I'll be straight up. I'm concerned about this game because I think your pass rush can get to Carson Wentz. If we can protect Carson Wentz, we'll have a good game. But if you guys are coming after him, that's going to be an issue because Daniel Jones, he saved the Giants. He kept the Giants competitive. Like, people should give him props on that.
Yeah, he's the only one that really kept him in that because every time he dropped back, he was running for his life, which I loved. You know what I'm saying? That defense was all over him. DeMarcus Lawrence had a big game now. That's what I'm looking at the matchup on that side from our defense against you guys. When you talked about Samuel Cosmi, DeMarcus Lawrence plays on that side against him. He went against the rookie and Evan Neal from Alabama, 3 sacks, 6 tackles, hella pressures, and he's going to be matched up against Cosmi. How do you kind of feel about that matchup? Because I kind of feel good about that matchup, and I think that could be exploited in that game.
Yeah, I'll be fair to you, bro. I'm always honest. I think that you guys should feel confident in that matchup. I think you guys have the advantage. DeMarcus Lawrence is a proven pass rusher. He's been doing it for a couple of years. I think he's been up and down though, right? He had like a 14 sack year or something like that, and had a kind of a down year after he signed a big contract, if I remember correctly. But he basically, he's a solid player, and I think he can definitely create some chaos in Washington. I think what Washington needs to do, and actually, I heard a great podcast. If you guys really do care about this matchup, there's a podcast. John Carmi is the ESPN reporter for Washington Commanders. Logan Paulson, a former tight end, was on there and really broke down the X's and O's, and it was awesome. It was like a master class in football. And he was talking about how like the Cowboys, they dress up their blitzes very, very well, and they basically just like have like these like nuanced like pass rushes, and they kind of like manipulate Micah Parsons. Instead of having his hand in the dirt, he'll be a couple feet up, off the line. You can kind of do whatever you want with him like that. And it's very flexible. So I think the way to counteract that is basically, instead of trying to like man up 5-on-5, I'm going to run the ball down your face, basically spread it out. Like just do 5 wide receiver sets, 4 wide receiver sets, and offset running back. It's like, if you guys are going to blitz us, we're going to attack you on the boundaries and kind of make you guys run after us. And I think that's honestly, that might be the way to do it because that's what Washington's good at. Like our speed receivers. We have Dotson, Samuel, and McLaurin, who are all running 4.3 40s, and Antonio Gibson. So that might be the way to counteract it. But yeah, I agree. If we kind of put our hands in the dirt and it's like mano y mano, I think you guys would have the advantage there.
So, like I said, the defense has been the calling card. We got a lot of guys that can come in waves. I think Anthony Barr is starting to find his way as well as with the defense, and I think that's really helped us because it's continued to let Micah Parsons be free, hand in the dirt, move all the way around, find matchups, and let's go at it. Now, speaking of our whole defense, Micah Parsons in general, what do you feel like? If you're offensive coordinator, or just coming from your perspective, what do you feel like you need to do to counteract him in particular to not wreck your offensive scheme?
So can I ask you a quick question? Like while I'm still thinking about it, you added Dante Fowler, and Dante Fowler and Anthony Barr. Those are people that I kind of had my eye on. Are they doing pretty well for you guys, or how's that going?
Anthony Barr, like I said, he's starting to come along. His first game, obviously you're with the new team, but I've seen the last 2 games a lot more sure of where he's going, where he's learning that defense. And like I said, he's coming in and keeping Micah Parsons free.
Okay.
LVE is what LVE is. You know what I'm saying? We
You
LVE.
guys don't view highly of him, right?
We
He's
don't
like,
even,
yeah.
yeah, he's
Okay.
just a regular player. I don't know what happened from his rookie year to now, but he's just not a physical player. He still is not aggressive enough in the hole. So really having Anthony Barr was a godsend, because if it would have been a Michael Parsons and an LVE, I think things would have been exploited. So Anthony Barr has given us more stability in that middle, more stability in the run game, and he's able to attack the run game more than the LVE would. So definitely happy about that. Dante Fowler, I feel like he's still getting his feet wet. They're still trying to find a role with him. But he had a really good game in that Cincinnati game. I think the biggest thing is when they start sliding DeMarcus Lawrence inside, playing the 3-tech, and you have kind of like our NASCAR package. That's when I feel like Fowler can kind of get his feet wet and pin his ear back and do his thing. So I like what he's doing. I just feel like he's got to get more rest, but it's a crowded defensive line. That's a good thing for us. We feel good about it, but it's a crowded defensive line. It's a lot of guys fighting for spots. So Terrell Basham, he was he's not a guy, but he still will induce pressure, and he was out. When he comes back, I wonder who's going to actually be active, because somebody's going to be inactive on that field, because we got a lot of guys along that line. So as far as both of those guys, I really love what Barr is bringing to the table, and we'll continue to see what Fowler's going to do.
Gotcha. And then go back to Micah Parsons, man. Like the way that, you can only hope to contain him, to be honest with you, man. I saw the Cowboys game live, and you guys got our number last year. It sucked, man. I'm not gonna lie. I was at the Cowboys game where I was, we were both in playoff contention. We're both looking pretty good. I'm talking about the first matchup.
Mm-hmm.
And then Micah Parsons, he had a show, man. It's basically, I remember he hit Heineke, we fumbled. I think DeMarcus Lawrence took it for a touchdown or something like that. It just kind of changed the whole game. I think in order to beat Micah Parsons, you just kind of have to constantly, account for him, right? So maybe having a running back in the backfield, so whenever the blitzer comes up, just chip him a little bit when he's coming in on a pass. Maybe throw screens against him to kind of if he's coming in with a lot of pressure, throw right over his head. Attack him with a short passing game, trying to negate his pass rush. It's going to be hard. I think the way to beat Washington is to make Carson Wentz hold on to the ball, because then he's going to try to run around in the pocket. And he's not as nimble as to be, and he might cause a fumble. He might throw a bad interception. So if he's confused, he's going to start seeing ghosts. I hope that's not how it's going to be all year, but that's what happened in Detroit, what happened in Philadelphia. I hope it doesn't become a trend. So we have to have pass protection. If we have pass protection, I think I like our odds if we actually have pass protection. But if it's early on and you guys are starting to generate pressure, I like your odds. It's kind of what I'm worried about.
All right. So I was looking at one of your podcasts that you was just on,
Okay.
and it was a lot of guys on there, and a lot of people were picking Washington. They were picking Washington 26 points, 23 points. Now I didn't get to listen to that podcast. Now I need to hear, why were so many people picking Washington over Dallas in that podcast?
So, I mean, I think people kind of think they're due. I think, there's some in their hearts, it's Cooper Rush, it's a backup quarterback. This Cinderella story can't possibly work. Dallas is susceptible. Washington's going to come out angry. Washington's going to be wearing the black jersey, so their swag's going to be up a little bit. So, I mean, there's a whole lot of different vibes behind it. People kind of go in that direction. I dude, you know me. I'm a very objective number kind of guy. I'm
right.
I'm a journalism major, so I'm dude,
right.
Looking at the stats, looking at the pass rush, looking at all this stuff. I don't like the matchup. I do think if I'm hoping that we win, but I think you guys might have the edge because of that. So that's kind of what I'm worried about. But I think it's it's more of it's going to happen. I believe in it kind of thing, as opposed to actual tangible evidence of why that we should win. So we'll see. I don't know. You never know. Any given Sunday in the NFL, bro.
Do you also think it's the Cooper Rush thing? They don't really respect him. They just feel like, hey, he's kind of winning, but he ain't really doing nothing. Is it really that too?
I think there's various there's various levels of fans, right? So there's fans that basically they watch every single football game and they saw the pass rush against the Giants, oh damn, the pass rush looks pretty good. And there's some people that kind of see the box score. It's Cooper Rush, who the hell is that? One touchdown pass, who the hell is that? And they're kind of seeing it from that angle. So whenever I give the Cowboys their just due on my Twitter account, it's oh, Cooper Rush, he sucks. And I'm kind of catching that vibe from people. And maybe he is this a game manager, right? But I do think what I got to give Dallas credit for is their coaching. I do think Kellen Moore is I don't know if he's and we'll see how he turns out long term, but I think he is creative enough to keep Cooper Rush afloat. He's actually doing a pretty good job to kind of navigate this guy through the tough waters until Dak Prescott comes back. So that's what I think. Looking at Kellen Moore versus Jack Del Rio, like Jack Del Rio's kind of been letting me down, so I kind of want to
Right.
tip the cap to him. So we'll see. I don't know.
Now, how do you feel about your staff? You said Jack Del Rio's kind of letting you down. Ron Rivera, obviously, it's 3 games in. If this gets a situation where it maybe gets out of hand, losses, things, anything like that, will there be any changes mid-season, during the season, or how do you kind of, or will that be something that will at least be talked about at the end of the season?
So I think Ron Rivera is safe. I think it's funny, man. With Washington, you kind of have to look at the macro, the big picture with everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ron Rivera, he was hired basically because they wanted a coach-centric approach here in DC because it was just so messy when he took over. It
Mm-hmm.
was like Jay Gruden, like all these scandals going on and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Ron Rivera, we talked about this before, bro. I think
Right.
Ron Rivera, he creates a high floor. He's creating a sense of professionalism in DC.
Mm-hmm.
He flipped our roster from like 27th oldest in the league to 7th youngest in the league. Like he's definitely kind of refreshing what our team and building a program. And I think they want to see it through. And I think at the same time, it would be difficult to get a high end prospect to come in and coach Washington, at least right now, with all these skinos going around with Dan Snyder. Maybe that's me just being in the DC metropolitan area and hearing it every single day. But
Mm-hmm.
the counter is there's 32 jobs in the whole world. Someone's going to want that job. You can always get a good coach. But I think what I'm catching is people that I talk to, they're like, hey, you know what? Like Ron Rivera is 100% safe. Jack Del Rio is kind of more on the hot seat. He kind of
Mm-hmm.
like after the first couple, especially like after the preseason, after last season, after like the Lions game, they were giving up a lot of big plays. I think we actually might lead the league in explosive plays against us.
I think it's
And
like
basically,
17.
yeah, something like that. And it basically, what happened is I think Jack Del Rio might be on the hot seat at the end of the year, but we'll see how that goes. Scott Turner, offensive coordinator, I like him. I think he's innovative. I think he finally, like we talked about before, I think we finally have a quarterback. I think he's starting to kind of feel out like what he can do with the quarterback, and like that's where Curtis Samuel's starting to shine because we have a
Mm-hmm.
creative younger guy who has a pedigree of North Turner. And the Cowboys fans, you guys know about him. Like
Right.
North Turner, he's a great offensive mind coming from a pedigree family. I think he'll eventually figure it out, but like right now, from what I gather, talking about that podcast with Logan Paulson, he Scott Turner kind of is taking a little while to counteract. Like, so you guys have a great like defensive strategy, like reacting to that,
Mm-hmm.
and then also like he has a lot of tells. Like apparently, like what I just heard in the podcast, like in a 12 personnel set, if we motion the tight end to one side of the field, it's going to almost like 100% of the time be a passing play because we never run the run play out of that position. So like little things like that, it's kind of like, Logan Paulson basically said the Eagles knew what plays were coming because they kind of saw the tells. It was on their way. So hopefully he starts adding some more nuance this week.
Man, now I'm gonna have to go check that out because I always like listen to a former player really break that down like no
I
other.
love listening. It's awesome. It's awesome. So you learn so much. It's fantastic.
You learn. I mean, you sit there and just soak it up like it's the Bible talking to you. Like, man, okay, I want to hear this tomorrow. The next day, I just got to keep on
100%.
soaking this up and listen because there's certain people that really break it down. They may not be the name guy out there. It's usually like those mid-level guys that really
100%.
just teach that game like this. Those mid-level guys, man, they just
because
really.
You can't rely on athleticism. You have to rely on his smarts, and that's how he is. This guy's as smart as hell. Exactly right. That's who he is. So he's like a mid tight end. He knows everything. He's very smart and intelligent. So I learned a lot. I really did. That was an awesome podcast.
Yeah, those are the ones you want to listen to, man, because those guys are just super good, and those guys, I always tune into them. So before we get ready to head off here, I really appreciate you, number one, jumping on here, dog, spitting that knowledge, letting everybody know about how these Washington Commanders work. Kind of give me your, I know we kind of talked about it, but give me your official keys to this game on the defensive side when we're on offense, and when you're on offense and we're on defense. What are your keys to winning this game?
Can I ask you one question before we wrap it up, though? Do you mind?
Yep.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right, so I just want to hear your perspective. So, like, let me kind of hear, like, going into this game, what are your thoughts on the Commanders? Like, what is your anxiety level for the game? Do you think, like, what do you think our strengths are? What do you think our weaknesses are? I kind of want to hear your big picture on things.
Well,
more of a natural level.
This is kind of what I feel right now about the Commanders. Like I said, I feel like you guys throw the ball way too much, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I know you guys got a good, quarterback in Carson Wentz, but I feel like once they got Carson Wentz, let's throw the ball. Let's throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are only averaging 86 yards on the ground. So when
Yeah.
I look at that, I'm like, let's continue to make them one dimensional. I do feel like, Carson Wentz does still hold on the ball, but he's dangerous. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing is, don't protect him. I mean, we got to get after him. Don't let him get rolling early.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what happened in that Philly game. They were getting after him early, getting those sacks early in the game. I think he had like 2 or 3 sacks in the first quarter. So I feel like that may affect him a little bit, getting hit around, and then maybe start seeing things, as you said. So from my perspective, if looking at your offensive side, I feel like, the offensive line, we can attack that kind of like we could do against the Giants. And like I said, y'all not really running the ball to me. And I think you guys should do that more if you guys want to be successful. It doesn't have to be the basic type of runs, but get creative, counter traps, maybe some toss sweeps, things like that. Get Curtis Samuel more involved as far as in that run game, quick bubble screen passes. I think he needs to be a key on there. But as I said, throwing a little bit too much from me. Keep on doing it in this game, in my opinion, because I want to just pin the ears back and go after Carson Wentz. I think that's the thing. I want to get after him early. I don't want him getting comfortable in that game. And stop the run. Don't let Antonio Gibson get anything. Kind of like when we played y'all that first game last year before we played that second game. I had a nasty taste in my mouth about Gibson because that's before we played y'all. He was averaging 120 yards a game in 2020. So that first matchup, my first thought was shut him down. Do not let him get the ball. I think he had 10 carries for 36 yards, but we kind of got after him early, and you guys kind of wanted to challenge Trevin Diggs or shut. I don't know why you wanted to do that. I'm not saying he was worth it, but I think y'all went out there trying to prove things you didn't have to. If you would have stayed within the game plan, would have probably been a closer game. But so that's just kind of my perspective from the offense. On the defensive side, I still worry about that front. Maybe not as much. I'm still happy y'all don't have the Chase Young in there. I know people are getting on him right now, but to me, he's still a threat. And if you had him in the game, he's a threat, and he's still a huge asset on the team. So I'm glad he's still not out. People can talk trash about him all they want. I'm glad he's not playing. You get what I'm saying? Two guys I worry about is the Daron Paynes and Jonathan Allen. Those two guys, we got to neutralize them. And I feel like getting Jason Peters inserted in that, this is the game he really needs to play, because we need a big boy to lay on those big dogs in the middle. Okay, we need a big guy to lay on them. Jamin Davis, I like him, but I feel like we can get after him. And that number 55. I like to get him in. I want to get him in coverage, because I feel like when you get him isolated one-on-one in coverage, we can get him in coverage. So really get your linebackers isolated in coverage, really shut down your Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen, and then I feel good. I know you got your secondary, but from my perspective, I feel good in this matchup, to me, just because of, I feel like even though we have Cooper Rush, I like our offensive line, the way it's playing. I like the way they're running Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. And I just feel like we just have a little bit more talent. Us being at home this first time, too, kind of helps us. And I feel like we just have a little bit more talent right now than you guys. And the uncertainty, I think, like I said, you guys got to get to running the ball more, in my opinion. If you guys can run the ball more, I think you'd be a more dangerous team. But if you guys start going back and dropping back, because I think your last 2 games against Philadelphia and Detroit, Carson Wentz had 26 dropbacks, 21 dropbacks, and those were your high sack games. He had 9 dropbacks in that Jacksonville game, only 1 sack given up. So my thing is, let y'all pass, get in long down the distance, and let's try to get after Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I mean that's a good strategy right there. To kind of answer, give you a little bit more insight. Daron Payne on Jason Peters, man, I like that matchup, man. I'll give you guys DeMarcus Lawrence versus Kazi, but Daron Payne's having a year, man. He's gonna basically get his big money. He's a dog. He's gonna be. He's angry. He wants a contract. Like Washington's probably not gonna give it to him. He's auditioning around the league, so I definitely think he might have a leg up on this current era of Jason Peters. Jason Peters is a little bit older now. And then Jamin Davis, one thing to kind of, I know you're a good student of the game, because he doesn't actually have all like the intricacies of a middle linebacker right now, they blitz him a lot. That he's generating pressure that way. So just keep on. It's fun to watch him blitz. So kind of keep an eye on 52 getting up the field and trying to, as he's like that fifth, blitzer with our defensive lines. It's pretty interesting. We're trying to generate pass rush because Chase Young is out, so that's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, and he does offer, because I seen him. They did a stunt blitz on him against the Detroit Lions. He had a nice little sack on Jared Goff. So I definitely want them to keep our eyes on him. But like I said, continue to use those tight ends. I don't know if Dalton Schultz is going to play in this game. Like I said, Michael Gallup.
What's his deal? He's hurt.
Yeah, he sprained. I think he sprayed his MCL. And but I'll be honest with you, we're loving our rookie tight ends right now. Jake Ferguson and Peyton Hendershot. Peyton Hendershot was undrafted out of Indiana. But I said it when I first saw him. He reminded me of an Aaron Hernandez. That's the type of body type he had. I know.
Player, Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah, the player, not the off-field. The player.
Okay, good. Okay.
The player. But he's got good hands. He's really sneaky, athletic. And Jake Ferguson is the same thing. And they can put bodies on you. They have a lot of energy on blocking. Now, Hendershot had a couple 2 bad penalties that kind of cost Dallas, but he had a big 21-yard reception. I like both of them. So even if Dalton Schultz didn't play, we weren't sitting back like, dang, Dalton Schultz didn't play, because a lot of people felt he was just a regular tight end anyway. So I like those 2 tight ends. Keep that 12 personnel popping. I think Tony Pollard, he can have a big game in this game. Ezekiel Elliott could have a steady game, but I like this matchup for Tony Pollard in this game. His explosive plays, if we can get hat on a man, I think once he can get to that second level, he's going to be real dangerous getting past the linebackers. So I really like him in the matchup in that aspect as well. And like I said, having Michael Gallup surely helps. And then we got a rookie, Jalen Tolbert. Hopefully we see more of him. Last week was his first game. He got 1 reception. A lot of people have been down on him, 3rd-round pick, and he just got active. But so hopefully we can see more of him. But I like the offense, the way you keep it balanced. I feel good against your defense if we keep it balanced. You don't need to throw the ball everywhere with Cooper Rush, and your passes needed to be there. If you look at it, there's a few shots down the field, but it's usually 15 and in, and mass protection, and let's go right there.
Gotcha.
So what do you kind of feel on your special teams? How do you feel about special teams?
So I think our special teams are actually, it's pretty solid. The only thing I'm worried about is our kicker, right? So it's funny, believe it or not, we've played 3 games so far this year. We haven't even had a field goal attempt. So it's gonna be interesting to see how he does. He missed a extra point during the preseason. He missed a field goal during the preseason as well. It's a strong leg. He can kick over 50 yards, especially in Dallas with that that dome and that whatever it is, the kind of the retractable roof that you guys have. He should have a advantage to kick it pretty well, but he hasn't done anything yet. Our punter is actually, I hate to say it, but people love it around here. It's one of the best punters in the league, but I hate saying that. I don't want to have a great punter, but he's excellent on that, and we do have some pretty good coverage. Against the Lions, we kind of had a slot wide receiver named Wild Goose. It's kind of a crazy last name, but Wild Goose. he was our like
he's your slot corner, right?
He was our slot corner because of the depth issues. But basically, he was in the coverage unit, the tackling unit. But he basically left his lane and left a wide open gap for the Lions, return like 60 yards. So I think our special team is solid. But I just think we just can't have any errors. But I'm not concerned about them. I think our special team is actually pretty solid. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, right now I don't feel bad about our special teams. That's been Achilles' heel, our kicking game. Brett Maher, he had the big victory, the winning kick, and he has the big leg. He's been pretty consistent this year, and a lot of Cowboys fans were concerned about the kicking game because they were looking atrocious in training camp and even preseason. We're looking atrocious, so that was good right there. And then Kavonte Turpin, our guy that we got from the USFL, he had a couple of electric returns in the preseason.
Yeah, he did.
He almost got one against Cincinnati, and he almost got one against the Giants, and I'm feeling that he might get one against these Commanders. That's what I'm hoping. I need one against you Commanders right now. And my guy, Steve Lumpton, he said, man, you sounding real confident, BGJ. I'm not sounding confident because I ain't trusting Cooper Rush like that, but I'm going to keep it real. The ball control, the running game, and I feel really good about our defense, if you want to be honest, George. I feel really good. Like I said, we're only giving up 17 points. The defense has kept us in the games. Even in that Tampa game when we lost against the Bucs, they kept us in the game. Tampa didn't score a touchdown until the very end.
You have the eighth best pass. You have the eighth best defense in regard to points scored. So you guys are doing very well. So I mean, honestly, I think that's the biggest matchup of the entire game. I think our offense is actually pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
I think our offense is
It's the
solid.
protect. It's going to be
It's
protection, George.
but I think your
That's what it's
defensive
going to
line,
be.
it's going to be. So it'll be protection and turnovers. Whoever wins the turnover battle, if we can protect Carson Wentz, it's going to be a game. I think it's going to be a fun game too. Yeah, it'll be awesome. Yeah, I think so for real. But if you guys get after him, it's going to be ugly. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the biggest key of the game right there, the trenches, especially on your side. If you guys get protection for Carson Wentz, yes, it can be a long day for Dallas. I feel that because our secondary is okay. Okay, we got some good secondary play. Donovan Wilson's playing really good. Malik Hooker. We got Trevin Diggs, Anthony Brown, things of that nature. But they can be exploited. Jordan Lewis, and he a little sus over there. So he can be exploited, especially with your 3 receiver set. You guys can get yards. You guys can get big plays if you give Carson Wentz time. And he can make the big money throws. So that's going to be the key for the defense. Do not let Carson Wentz get off early.
And then
that's
James,
why. Yeah.
That's so we were basically like our offense was non-existent against the Eagles and the Lions pretty much, but we still are like maybe 7th or 8th in the league in regard to big explosive pass plays. Like Carson Wentz does that, man. Like Jahan Dotson's a dog too. Like I hope like he's not getting his flowers because like Chris Olave's starting to come up a little bit and Drake London's doing pretty well. Like and Garrett Wilson is like this wide receiving class we're gonna be talking about in a couple of years. And that's starting to come around a little bit. It's pretty awesome. But Dotson's legit, man. And Dotson can catch. He doesn't drop the ball. Like He's a Terry McLaurin clone. So whatever you guys like about Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson is the exact same thing. Leader, takes ownership. He runs good routes. He's a shifty guy, good hands. Jahan Dotson's dude. I love him. So like that's what it comes down to. So your second, like we always hear about Trayvon Diggs. What's up with your second and third corner? Are they exploitable or what?
Yeah, they're definitely exploitable, and that's why I'm worried. That's why I said that we have to get at you early. Get out, stop that run early. Get Carson Wentz to get those 3 and outs. I think we're only giving up. I think you guys are high up in there too on third downs, getting teams off on third downs.
Yeah,
we're at 33, and you're like 30. You're like at 30%. We're like at 33%. So that's going to be key. Third downs. Yeah. Who's going to be converting those third downs? Like you said, turnovers in the game. But our secondary is going to have to play really good because, as I said before, man, I am worried about Dotson. I know Terry. I know him. But I feel like Dotson is the one that's sticking out to me. Dotson and Samuel are the ones sticking out to me. And then you got your guy, your tight end. He's back healthy, isn't he?
Logan Thomas. Yeah, he is pretty solid. He played last weekend. Like that's
I'm keeping an eye on him too.
He's good. He's legit. And basically Carson Wentz for the past 3 years, the dynamic for like tight end relationships. It's like Lamar Jackson targets his tight end number 1 percentage, like in the league. Carson Wentz and whoever it is, Mo Alley Cox or whatever, Zach Ertz or whatever it has been. It's been Carson Wentz is number 3 overall. Carson Wentz loves his tight end. So Logan Thomas is just starting to get back into the mix. So I think he'll be more of a factor. But you're right. Like the thing with Washington is this. If they have protection, one of them is going to spring loose. Like Terry McLaurin, all the attention will go to him. Yep. Therefore, Dotson's wide open, or therefore they'll get Curtis Samuel going. Like it's funny. Like early on, I think Terry McLaurin is that dude. But early on, as you mentioned, Curtis Samuel is the guy that's like getting all the touches and getting all the carries. I wonder. I'm curious if it'll last all year long. Who knows? Maybe Carson Wentz just has a feeling for Curtis Samuel, but like he's the one getting all the touches too. So it's interesting.
Yeah, our second and third corner can be exploited, and I really keep on looking at those 3 receivers. And like I said, that could be the death of us right there, that game. Now, I feel like, I think we can get y'all, we can bottle up Gibson. I feel like we can bottle up, but that's the biggest thing with me is getting after Carson Wentz. That's the thing that keeps on standing out me in this matchup, George, for us to really win this game. Carson Wentz can't have one of those 300-yard, 3 TD games. He can't have that type of game against us because that's going to be a recipe for that disaster, and that could be one of those games we lose in the fourth quarter because you guys got on us early. We're making big mistakes because now we're behind, and, you guys get we don't need one of those plays where you guys get the ball early, we get a busted coverage, and you throw a deep pass, and it's a 60-yard bomb to Dotson, and it's 7-0 early. You feel me? That's what I do not want, and that's what cannot have. Like you said, you guys have been trailing a lot in games, and even going to last year, we want to continue that trend. I think that's the best way for us to beat you. Get on you guys early. get on Carson Wentz early. That's the keys to me to win the game, in our opinion. And we must have at least 20 to 25 carries to beat you guys. I don't care if Deron Payne and them are stopping it early. We must stay with that run in this game to beat you guys. If we get pass happy and start trying to throw it everywhere, I don't feel we will win that game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we'll see, man. See how it
so
goes.
So before we head out here, do you got a score prediction?
I don't know if I want to make a score prediction. This is what I'm gonna do.
You gonna win this game?
So this is what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna talk it out real quick, right? So over the past 2 games, Washington hasn't done anything to basically say, like, to say, hey, we're going to be favored to win this game, right? So I'm the kind of dude where, like, you have to walk the walk before you talk the talk. Like, we got our ass kicked the last 2 games, right? So it's like, who am I to say we're going to come and beat the Cowboys, right? I'm not going to openly say you guys are going to beat us, this week, but I'm going to say, like, you guys are looking good. You guys probably, you guys should be favored going into this game at home. Your offense is looking pretty good. Your pass rush is looking pretty solid. I would love it if they, I'm leaning. You guys are probably gonna basically.
He said Jordan knows it.
You said 24-17 Commanders. I rule. I got you. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm gonna say. No,
you stop being nice on here. Say it, George.
Yeah, we'll see what's up, man. I think it's gonna be a good game. Hopefully Washington pulls it out. But I think you guys should be favored because of everything that's going on. But hopefully Cooper Rush falls down to earth over here. What do you think about the score? What do you got?
I gave up score predictions last year because people were like,
it's hard to do. I'm not feeling either.
But I've been doing it. I've been doing pretty good this year, so I'm gonna kind of still stay out there. I'm gonna say my Cowboys are gonna win. And like I said, this isn't gonna be no definitive. I feel like it's gonna be like a 24-13, could be like a 24-20 game. I think it's more maybe a 24-20 game.
Mm-hmm.
Turnovers are going to be key, like you said, but I feel like this is still going to be a dogfight. I don't feel like we score a lot of points. The only way we score a lot of points is if we get a lot of turnovers on defense. But I feel like we're still going to have the struggles on offense, putting up points on the board. I think defense gets us in good field positions to score, have a short side of the field. Maybe Kavonte Turpin on our special teams get a big return to kind of get us in the game. But I think those kind of things kind of get us over the hump. But I feel like it's going to be our defense once again that's really going to win the game for us, like it has the last 2 games. And I don't really feel like it's been Cooper Rush. I feel like it's more been that defense really keeping us solid and be able to make Rush make them easy plays.
That's what I'm looking forward to. I think defense in the run game. If we can stop your run game and we can protect Carson Wentz, and I think we're into it. If it's the other way around, I think you guys got it. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. So, hey, I really appreciate you, Big Dog, jumping on here, man. We're going to definitely have to do it when we have that second matchup. But before we get off of here, we always talk about, hey, let's let everybody know where you're at. I got some people in my feed already from my side already like your channel, already said they had sub to it, bringing a lot of heat. Let everybody know what you're doing, what you got going on over there.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you for everything. So, James, I love collaborating with you, man. You're the kind of guy, you and Joe and all them, talk to you guys all year long. I love it, man. So thank you for everything. I appreciate it. My name is George Carmi. You can find me at gcarmi21. I represent Full Press Coverage, fullpresscoverage.com. We have a fantasy podcast with my guy, Kyle. We'll be doing that on Sunday mornings, predicting, trying to start and sit in for the fantasy podcast. I have my own podcast, Full Press Commanders. Please follow that. I'm trying to build that up for my first year doing it. Full Press Commanders on YouTube, so definitely jump on that and subscribe to that, please. And hit me up anytime. I love talking football, boy.
Hey, man. Hey, we love it. Like I said, especially the way we've been doing this with Joe. It's been really awesome. I can't wait till when we have our matchup. But I've been, like I said, I've really been blessed to be able to talk with Joe and talk real football with all the hoopla and arguing and screaming. And once again, right here, talking to you, talking real intelligent football. We can have good conversation back and forth and really be able to break down the game. And I'm really excited to be able to talk to you tonight and be able to listen to you and be able to talk to you when we do it again. So I appreciate you, dog. And if anything else, man, make sure y'all tune into the channel. I'll be doing my play-by-play on Sunday. Make sure you check out George and his channel as far as you Washington guys. And we'll see how that matchup goes on Sunday afternoon, 1:00 game. We don't really like them 1:00 games, but we'll go ahead and make it happen. You feel me? So myself, Big Game James, George Carmi, we'll talk to you soon.